what's going on between Israel and Lebanon is so critical right now. Just we had in the last hour, we've learned it several times. We have ceasefire, we don't have ceasefire. The ceasefire is broken, ceasefire is in place, and it's crazy what's going on. And Israel was bombing last night, and today Nabatea and all the regions around Nabatea, more than 47 people were killed and 106 were injured so far, based on what was reported on the mm, uh, uh, on the Lebanese sources. Then we have four Israeli soldiers were killed on the part of Israel. The attack is happening as we talk. They say the ceasefire is in place, but the attack is happening. And Israel Channel 15 said if Hezbollah tries to confront Israeli advances in southern Lebanon, we will defend ourselves and retaliate. This is just, go ahead, Professor Marandi, your understanding of that.
Well, first of all, I just received news a couple of hours ago, three, more than a few hours ago, that a young man who I helped get a postdoc at a university, a prestigious university in Beijing, a Lebanese man, he told me a few hours ago that his father-in-law is his house has been bombed, and that he's under the rubble, and the Israelis won't allow the drones are flying overhead and hunting people, so no one can approach the building. And then later he told me that his father-in-law was killed. So this is what is going on. They're murdering women and children. They're slaughtering families. Western media, in order to help the Israelis, Western journalists, Western media, legacy media, state media journalists, they call these Hezbollah targets. All these little babies and children, these are all Hezbollah. And they are flattening the towns and cities. This is not being reported widely. What the Minister of Defense of the Israeli regime has said, that they're flattening all the villages, and the owners will never see their homes again. That the Zionists are saying, cabinet members are saying that if for every woman in Israel who's shedding tears, 1,000 Lebanese women will shed tears. This is a genocidal regime, but the Western media and Western governments and Western diplomats, they're criminals and they're complicit. Whether it's the Guardian or Fox News, it doesn't make a difference. They're all complicit in this genocide. And so really it's just, and so are regional regimes. They're all fake supporters of the Palestinian people, except for Iran and Ansarullah. And it's extraordinary how some people keep contacting me and say, why is Iran doing nothing? I mean, Iran and Hezbollah, they've been victims of war after war. They're helping as far as they can, but they should look to their own governments who are transporting oil to the Israeli regime, that are doing trade and business, where they have embassies. Instead of criticizing Iran, which is confronting a coalition of supporters of the Israeli regime, these people should look to their own governments every now and then and see what they can do to bring about change in the capitals of their countries. But what we're seeing today is just an indication of how serious we can take the agreement between Iran and the United States. And we discussed this before. Larry has also said this before, that despite the fact that it is an important, the MOU is an important document. It's a symbol of Iran's victory. It's a political victory that has shown the military victory, and also the siege warfare victory. But anyone who thinks that it's going to be the end of the story is being naive. The United States is supposed to stop the genocide. It's doing nothing of the sort. The Israeli regime is advancing, and it says if Hezbollah resists, that is a violation of the ceasefire. So they're going deeper into Lebanon, or attempting to do so. And if Hezbollah strikes them, then they will. That is a violation. This is the upside down world that we're living in, and this is what the West supports, and this is what the United States supports. So the very first part of the MOU is being violated. And then this morning, Trump said that Iran is not going to see any of its money. I just heard that Al Jazeera said that money has been transferred to Iran. Right before coming on your program, I asked, and nothing has come to Iran. So the United States is in violation at multiple levels of the agreement, and that is exactly as expected. Now, some people are saying that Iran was naive to sign this deal. I don't think so. I think that Iran is showing the world that, again, the United States is untrustworthy. It's unreliable. Ayatollah Khamenei, in a letter last night, in a statement, he wrote that he is very skeptical, and he only accepted this course of action because the president insisted. Ayatollah Khamenei's skepticism has been proven right, and the negotiators are going to be tough. They're not going to be flexible at the negotiating table if they ever get there, because right now there are no negotiations because of the ongoing genocidal attacks in Lebanon, and because Trump has openly said that he's not going to hand over Iranian assets. And I don't know why Al Jazeera insists on fabricating this news, whereas nothing has yet happened.
Larry, we were supposed to have a summit in Geneva, Switzerland today, which later on we've learned from the Iran's foreign ministry spokesman. He said, Ismail Baghai, he said negotiations in Geneva are suspended and postponed to a later date until the MOU terms are implemented. And we know the behavior of Israel before the MOU. They attacked Beirut, and right now the attacks are getting worse. And do you see any time soon these two sides getting together?
I think what's going to happen over the next 3 days is going to be pretty consequential. So let's look at what is happening on the U.S. side. The military that had been up on, they set up in what are called tactical operation centers and joint operation centers. They call them CATs, crisis action teams. These are the main one, I believe, was at Central Command, and the backup was at the National Military Command Center in the Pentagon. And then there were several others, and that were set up, and these started operating like 2 days before the start of the war on the 28th of February. So that was an indicator that something was going to happen, that an attack was coming. And those CATs, we'll call them, were operating 24/7. The men and women staffing it they'd come for 12-hour shift and go home, come back, 12 on, 12 off, 7 days. So it's a pretty brutal schedule. I'm talking about that because those have now been taken down. So the United States right now is not standing up, geared up militarily to do anything. The only unit that's active is called the Air Combatant Command. They're withdrawing. They're working on how to get all of the U.S. aircraft that were sent to the region to pull them out. So I'm raising this because it's the United States right now has not looked like in the event that Iran strikes Israel, the United States is not gearing up and being prepared to strike back on behalf of Israel. So let's call that the good news. The bad news, though, is Trump is I think he's a combination of unable and unwilling, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, to really rein in the Israelis. He can immediately do so by saying, okay, we're withdrawing our Patriot batteries, we're withdrawing THAAD, we're suspending the aid. There are very concrete things he could do. to get Israel's attention to stop this. But so far, he's shown no inclination to do so. However, his original reason for making this deal is because of the economic catastrophe that is just weeks away. That he'd been warned for at least a month about the implications of the depletion of the strategic petroleum reserve, and just ignored it, or did it finally got his attention, and his announcement, oh yeah, and to let the oil flow. Well, as we've seen today, the Strait of Hormuz is once again closed. Ships that thought that they were going to move aren't moving, because now with the threat that Iran will take action against any ship that is not in accordance with the Iranian system that's been put in place to govern the transit of ships. They'll be at risk. And I believe the U.S. Navy has actually withdrawn its forces from the region. So you don't have the air assets that used to be there to try to counter Iranian activities, and the naval assets certainly are apparently withdrawing from the area. So it puts Iran in a position now that I am told they are in active consultations with the Pakistanis and with the Chinese about next steps, because on the one hand, Iran does want to be seen as complying with this memorandum of understanding, but the clear violation, I mean, the very first paragraph stipulates that the United States and Iran and their allies are responsible for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. And what Israel is doing is a complete violation of that territorial integrity and sovereignty. And so it'll be under the terms of that MOU, Iran will be fully entitled to act against Israel to stop its violation.
Professor Marandi, you may have some sort of points on what Larry just said about the Iranian position and how they're seeing the situation right now. But we had a report from Iran, the Iranian member of parliament, Malik Shariati. He claims that the President Pezeshkian has prepared a 6-point plan to counter the U.S. misconduct in case they don't abide by the MOU. And they have presented that to the Supreme Leader of Iran. They're waiting for the response from the Supreme Leader of Iran. You mentioned the letter yesterday of the statement of the Supreme Leader, which was somehow saying, you mentioned the essence of that statement. Your understanding of what's going on, the Iranian position, and this new report.
Well, I think that the chances of renewed conflict between Iran and the Israeli regime are high, and the chances that Iran will fire missiles at the Israeli regime are increasing by the minute. We already saw the Iranians on at least 2 occasions threaten to use missiles and then refrain from doing so. One was right before the agreement, when the Israelis struck Beirut. Iran was about to strike, and then Trump, in order to prevent an escalation, he gave those concessions which led to the agreement, which, and the first and foremost, the number one concession was in the first paragraph, where the Israeli regime was supposed to withdraw and accept Lebanese sovereignty. Then a couple of nights ago, Iran, I don't remember exactly which night it was, but Iran cleared the airspace in Western Iran and was preparing to launch missiles at the Israeli regime for its violations in Lebanon. And it did not do so, probably because of promises made by the United States. But I think that as things stand, the chances for Iranian missile strike are increasing rapidly. And I think that the number of ships that will be allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz will be limited. in order to put pressure on the U.S. economy, in order to force Trump to take a stance against the Israeli regime. Because everyone knows that time is running out, and this is something that Larry has just now pointed out. Trump himself said we have 4 weeks left, and the Iranians already knew that because everyone has been following up on the news. So we are in, it's a very dangerous situation, and I think escalation is quite possibly imminent.
Yeah. Larry, you remember last night what J.D. Vance said to Israel, the only friend you have is the United States. And the United States is giving 2/3 of what you've used in this war. And this is the position. And looking at what is going on the Israeli media, they're basically saying, one of the main questions is, has the United States become a new Iranian proxy? Are these people logical, or is there any sort of rationality on their sort of thinking? Because it doesn't seem these people are going to learn anything unless they forced into some sort of position.
Yeah, no, there's no logic or rationality in DC, or it's a rare commodity if it appears. Look, the narrative about Iran has been firmly set in the American conscience about, it's a terrorist state, it's a brutal state, it's an authoritarian state, it attacks its neighbors, it's killed thousands. Now, none of that's true, but when Trump signed the deal the other day, or put his name on the memorandum of understanding, the backlash was swift, furious, comprehensive. The mouthpiece almost for the administration, Fox News, was immediately attacking him, and calling into question, how could this be? So overcome the only thing that's actually going to finally overcome that narrative is the actual defeat of Israel. I'm sorry to say, but that will be the shock required to awaken the Americans from this bizarre dream that they are living in, this dream world that the United States is the preeminent military power, and Israel is the greatest and only democracy in the Middle East, and it's just we can't ignore that. Now, at the same time, though, the Trump administration is got to confront, is whether it wants to or not, is going to be forced to confront some economic realities that are caused by the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz and the disruption of the supply of oil. I had written the other day that the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, according to the media, was down to 360 million barrels. But then I discovered, no, that's wrong. On January 5th, the number was 349 million barrels. So, 11 million barrels less. And that was, that's now 2 weeks ago. So now we're looking at even a lower number. And the reason that's important is that represented, 349 represents about 16 days of oil use in the United States. When that dries up and you're already dealing with a global shortage, then the prices go crazy and the effects on the economy are profound. And so that's where the economy is what's going to force the United States away from pursuing a confrontation with Iran and being able to continue to support Israel. But I think that could be 2 to 3 months away.